Power of the Holy People 3, March 6, 2011. We all know that the devil tries to take away the power of the holy people by labeling them crazy or insane. They will even try to use drugs to take away their power. Another way the devil takes away your power is by preventing you from hearing the miracles or supernatural abilities of God. If we didn't see or hear about our boss's ability to drill through hardened steel with an ordinary drill bit, no one would be able to do it, even until today, in that shop I worked at. We heard about some of Jesus' miracles in the Bible. His ability to feed 5,000 people with one loaf of bread, to turn water into wine, to raise Lazarus from the dead. Amazingly, after these miracles, Jesus asked Luke, "Who do you say that I am?" And Luke said, "Some say you are a prophet, some say you are Elijah." But Jesus said, "Whom do you say that I am?" And Luke said, "You are like the Son of God." Jesus was amazed at the disbelief. Jesus had just raised the dead, fed 5,000 people with one loaf of bread, and Luke still does not believe Jesus is God. But Luke is like one of Jesus' 10, top apostles. So Jesus has to go with what Luke believes as the standard for that generation. So many of Jesus' miracles did not even make it into the Bible because of disbelief. From the last books of the Bible and the forgotten books of Eden, Jesus made a bird out of clay, clapped his hands, and the bird came to life and flew away. Nobody believed Jesus could do this, so it never made it into the Bible. It is part of the apocryphal books. Apostle accidentally dropped some keys into the sea, and Jesus told the apostle to take a piece of wood that floated and throw it into the sea. The wood sank, and the keys floated. The apostle was able to retrieve his keys. But even this miracle was like science. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Why didn't Jesus just make the keys float without using a piece of wood? I call it deference. Or deference, because it is the will of God. I witnessed many miracles that I never even seen written in any books. Someone wanted me to write about the Jehovah's Witnesses, but I only studied with them for one day. Back in 1989, some Jehovah's Witnesses came to my door. I had some questions about the Bible. I've only been reading it for a short time back then. So a guy and his girlfriend, invited me over to their apartment to study. When I got to their apartment, I noticed several empty bottles of whiskey and vodka by their recycle bin. I haven't read much of the Bible, but the Bible is very clear not to drink any strong drink. Nothing wrong with drinking a little wine, but we are to refrain from drinking strong drink, and there's no argument about that in the Bible. But anyways, I had some questions about the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel doesn't make too much sense to me because it's all talking about the king of the north and the king of the south, and it's not given any names, and so it's not making very much sense. But in her Bible, she has the names of all these end times political leaders and dictators. Their names are written in pencil and in pen as side notes. The Jehovah's Witnesses sit in a sermon and they take notes that their pastor tells them, who these kings are, and they write them down in pencil or pen in their Bibles. Well, I want to know who these political leaders are, and I ask her. She starts telling me, and I can't hear a word she's saying. So I say, "What?" And she tells me again, and I still can't hear a word she's saying. I can see her lips move, but God is supernaturally blocking my ears. Her Bible is sideways to me, where it's kind of sitting kitty corner. And so I can see the names written in her Bible, but I can't read them because it's sideways. So I asked her if I could look at her Bible. As I turned her Bible towards me, the words she had written in pencil and pen had disappeared off the page. I seen the names, but I wasn't able to read them, and when I looked closer, they just disappeared. She was looking at the Bible the whole time, but she did not see this miracle. I then returned the Bible back to her, and I see the words in pen and pencil reappear in her Bible. God had just performed the most amazing miracle I have ever read or heard about, right under their noses, and they didn't even notice it. I went to one Jehovah's service, and I don't remember a thing the preacher taught. The only thing I remember was them wanted me to put some money into the collection box, and it was my first visit, and I didn't want to do it. In fact, I didn't do it, and they were not really interested in me coming to their church anymore. So that was the last time I went. Not only was God not going to deceive me, he was not going to let these Jehovah's Witnesses deceive me either. That wasn't the last time I witnessed print being supernaturally removed from the pages of a book. I wrote some stuff online in 1996, and God said, "Where is it written?" And I got the pseudepigrapha and opened it to the page where I got the quote. And God removed that quote right out of the book. Then he removed it from my memory. So now I don't even know what was written that he edited out. But he did not remove from my memory the fact that he edited the book. In fact, I remember that very clearly, as he wanted to send a message that even if the devil changes the Bible to deceive us, God can change it back in an instant. So the devil could not change the Bible, and so the devil decided to change the definition of the words in the Bible to deceive people. So now, to read the Bible, we need to learn the original definition of the words. And I'll talk more about that on another date. But we need to know about these miracles to fight against the devil. If the devil forces you to sign a confession to a crime that you did not commit, you have to know how to petition God for a solution. You have to know what to ask God. If you know God can remove writings from a document, you can ask God to remove your signature from a confession. The judge and prosecutor might believe you're insane if you believe God can remove your signature, but they will have to admit that either God removed it or you did not sign the confession in the first place, and therefore you're not guilty. People will wonder if they were, people would wonder if they were insane, so they would come to me and they would ask me to explain unexplainable events. I was in a bar in California, and this guy told me he got in a fight with another man at the bar, and he remembers several witnesses saw him punch a man in the eye. What he did not understand is why he punched a man in the eye, and the next morning he had the black eye. The man who got punched in the eye didn't get a black eye, but the man who did the punching got the black eye. The guy who got punched remembers getting punched, but even he doesn't understand why he does not have the black eye. So I asked him what he was thinking when he got punched in the eye. And he said, "Well, I didn't think it was fair. Why should I suffer for what someone else did? Why should this guy who punched me not suffer at all?" Well, this thought was dialogue with God. God had agreed that the guy who got punched did not deserve a black eye, and the guy who punched him deserves a black eye. Although this is contrary to nature, when he petitioned God and God agreed, he was able to create what I call deference. Like the saying, I'm rubber and you're glue, and what you say to me bounces off of me and sticks to you. But in this case, even physical abuse can bounce off the victim and stick to the victimizer. You know, some miracles we hear about in songs. Ozzy says that about the last days, rivers will turn to wood, eyes will melt into blood. When the power of the holy people spread, we will witness even more bizarre miracles than these. Donald Trump will build a skyscraper, knowing migrant slave workers will fall to their deaths building it. One day a migrant slave will fall off that skyscraper, and as he falls 100 floors, he will pray to God, why should I fall to my death while Donald Trump shoves millions in profits up his anus? And God will agree, this is not fair. God will supernaturally intervene, and the slave will land safely on his feet. As the wood had to sink before the keys would float, the man's life can only be spared by deference. At the same time the man lands safely on his feet, Donald Trump's daughter will be found splattered on the kitchen floor of her home as if she fell 100 floors to her death. A man will work in a factory and get his arm severed in a piece of machinery. They will pull the man out and his arm will seem uninjured. But they will see a severed arm in the machinery, and that arm will belong to the factory owner. As God's will be done. Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, limb for limb. No more free rides for industry or workers' compensation. That factory owner knew that if someone was injured in a piece of machinery, that the owner must suffer the injury. I don't care how much money that industry makes. They do not have enough money to pay a man for his injury. If you don't want to be injured, don't start a business. There's going to be an explosion at an oil refinery, and a man covered with fuel will be burning. He will have dialogue with God. Why should I burn when this oil sheik is making billions? God will agree. And he will come out of that fire without so much as the smell of smoke. And 10,000 miles away, the rich oil sheik will be found sitting in his chair, burnt to a crisp, without so much as any of his other furniture in his home suffering from the fire. And all the rich people will know this is their future. No longer will they say, why don't God show us a miracle to prove his existence? No longer will they pay the preacher to lie to them.